All right, good morning. Today we are going to be doing the second half of 11.1, so we're going to be 11.1b. Today our objective is to find excluded values. So if you guys would please put that in to your objective. Now, excluded values. These are, if we kind of just break it down, if you look at the word excluded, excluded kind of means we don't want to be a part of. So we have some values in math that we can't have in our equations because it results in numbers that don't exist. So we have a number, our very first blank here, I made my notes look like your guys' notes today. It says, what number can we not divide by? So right now, if everybody took their calculators and they took a number and they divided by this number, your calculator would freak out. And that number is 0. It is not possible to divide by 0. And the reason why is because all numbers have an infinite, ooh, that's an I, that's a T, that's an I, infinite number of zeros. Okay. Oh, guys, I can't take it. That looks terrible. Excuse me. Infinite. There we go. All right, so what that means, what is an excluded value? These are numbers that will make the denominator and if you're someone who's like, what is a denominator, Bayles? Reminder that's the bottom of a fraction. Zero. Okay. So today we're looking for numbers that, or letters, but mostly numbers, that make the bottom of our fraction 0. We don't want those, so we consider those to be excluded values. So kind of the where and when in this kind of next section, we don't want our bottom, and I'm just going to write bottom for both of those. We don't want our bottom of our fraction to be 0, and the reason why for both of these, we can't divide by 0. Oh, there's an E there, guys. Oh, by 0. Okay. So that's kind of our whole goal today. So I'm going to kind of take all of our problems are going to look like what we did yesterday, and we cannot divide by 0. So that's what we're trying to find and to try to fix today. All right, so I'm scrolling, and I scrolled too far. There we go. And you guys will have to excuse me. I'm not using Smart Notes today. I'm using something else today. So it's going to look a little weird today. All right. So on this first one here, so what we're really looking at today is the bottom. Today we don't really care as much about the top. So on the bottom of this one, I have 6x. And what we just talked about is we cannot have it equal to 0. So I'm going to take that bottom. So I have 6x, and I'm going to use this symbol. And this symbol means cannot equal, and we cannot have it equal to 0. So now we're going to kind of do what we did in chapter 9. We're setting these all to equal 0, and we're going to solve. So to solve for this one, I'm going to divide by 6, and we're going to have x, and it's not equals, but does not equal, and we have 0 divided by 6 is 0. So that means our answer for this, our excluded answer, we do not want x to equal 0. Because right now we know if I plug this 0 into my equation here, if I took 6 times 0, that bottom would equal 0, which we do not want to have. So that means our x cannot equal 0. That is our excluded value. Okay. So let's look. We have our next one, number 2. You guys are going to have to excuse my computer use today. So we have number 2, And where is this blue line coming from? Oh my goodness, you guys. All right, so I have number 2 here. Now this one not as easy, but again, we are just taking the bottom. So I have 14x squared minus 16x. And again, I don't want it to equal 0. Now this one, we have a little bit more work to do. This time we're actually going to have to factor. I know, factoring is coming back. I see that 14 and 6 are both divisible by 2, and these both also have an x. So I'm going to take out a 2x. A reminder, this all does not equal 0. And then after I take out a 2x, inside here I'm going to be left with 7x minus 8. Okay. Now from here, we're going to also do what we did in chapter 9. Because I have an x and an x, we have to solve for both of those. So I have 2x does not equal 0, and I have 7x minus 8 does not equal 0. From here, again, just like that first one, I'm going to solve for x. So I'm going to divide by 2, divide by 2. So my first answer is x cannot equal 0. Because again, if I plugged in 0 into my bottom part of my equation, it would cause it to equal 0, so it cannot be that. This one, a little bit more steps. I'm going to add 8, add 8. This should look really familiar to what we did in our last chapter. I now have 7x does not equal 8, and then I will divide by 7, divide by 7. And again, guys, I'm okay if you leave it as fractions. And so this is my other excluded value. So if you plugged in either of these, it would cause the bottom to equal 0, which is what we do not want to have. So this one has 2 excluded values. And we remember from chapter 9 that sometimes we're going to get 2 answers for things. All right, so that's how we do that one. The next one is kind of a nice, easier one. So if I'm looking at number 3 here, why does this keep doing that? All right, and so for this last one, before we start solving it, we're going to see that we have a to the third. So what that means is that we are going to have 3 answers on the bottom. So again, I'm just going to pull this one out. And reminder that we are going to make it say not equal 0 because that is our goal today. This one, we have a GCF first. I see all 3 of these are divisible by 3, and then they also have an A. So we're going to factor out 3A first. When we do that, we now inside here, so when I factor out 3A, I am now going to have A squared minus A, and then minus 6. Reminder, you can always factor in that 3A again. I'm sorry, multiply in that 3A and make sure you get back to your original. From here now, we're going to have to factor even more. So I'm going to have 3A. That guy's still chilling out in front. To get my negative C, that means we need a positive and a negative. The only way to get A squared is by taking A times A. And now from here, we know 2 numbers that when I multiply them to get to 6, and they have to add up to negative 1. So what's going to work for us is positive 2 and negative 3. Then from here, we're going to do our final step is that we're going to solve. Now notice though, I have 3 A's. So that means I'm going to have 3 answers. So I'm going to have 3A does not equal 0. I'm going to have A plus 2 does not equal 0. And I'm going to have A minus 3 does not equal 0. And then from here, we're going to use all of our solving skills. So I'm going to divide by 3, divide by 3. So A cannot equal 0. I'm going to minus 2, minus 2. A cannot equal negative 2. And then our last one, I'm going to add 3, and A cannot equal positive 3. So this is a large part of our homework assignment today, is that we're just doing this. We're finding those excluded values. Okay, so now when we flip it to our next page, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be combining what we did yesterday in 11.1a with this excluded value. So we're going to be kind of simplifying and finding those not zeros. Okay. So our first thing, we're gonna actually do the excluded values first, and then we're going to simplify. So the first thing I want to look at is my bottom here. So I'm gonna say 3a minus 3 cannot equal 0. So if I just solve for a quick, I'm gonna add 3, add 3. I have 3a cannot equal positive 3. So I'm going to divide by 3, and a cannot equal 1. From here now, we're going to do what we did yesterday. So I'm going to simplify. On top, I have to factor. Okay, so to get that a squared, again, I need to have an a times an a. Since my C is positive and my B is negative, that means we need a negative, negative. And two numbers, when I multiply them, that equal positive 2 and add up to negative 3, that's going to be 1 and 2. Now on the bottom, we can't use the same type of factoring. The factoring that we're going to need to do is our GCF. I notice that they both have a 3, so I'm going to factor out a 3. When I do that, I'm left with a minus 1, which is exactly what we want because I see on top there's an a minus 1, which then will take care of this a minus 1. So then our answer is going to be left on top, I have a minus 2, and on bottom we have 3. So that is our answer. And reminder, we already found this today, that a cannot equal 1. So those are our two answers because those are the two things I'm asking you for. Okay. All right, here we go. Last one. We'll do this one real quick and then we will be done. All right, so again, I'm just going to take the bottom here. Now the bottom though, I'm noticing it's not quite as easy as that last one because we have that x squared. What I need to do first is I need to actually factor it. So I have our double parentheses, and reminder, we're trying to not make it equal to 0. And the only way to get x squared is we need to have x times x. To get a negative 6, I would have a positive negative. And then again, I need two factors that when I multiply, it gives me negative 6, but it's going to add up to 1. And that's going to be positive 3 and negative 2. From here, then we're going to solve both of these. I have x plus 3 cannot equal 0. And I have x minus 2 cannot equal 0. And from here, we're going to solve them. So I'm going to minus 3, minus 3. So x cannot equal negative 3. And I'm going to add 2, and x cannot equal positive 2. Okay, so that was our first thing, to find our excluded values. And then we're going to take what we did yesterday. So now I'm going to factor, let's give us some room. I'm going to factor both of these. Now what's nice is we've already done the bottom. We just factored the bottom. I need to move that. That does not give us enough room. I need to factor the top because I already factored the bottom. This right here, I'm just going to bring that over here. We had x plus 3 and we had x minus 2. Now on top, I notice I have a 4 and an 8, so I can actually factor out a 4. So when I do that, I now have 4 and I have x minus 2, which is exactly what we wanted because we notice on top I have x minus 2 and then on bottom we have x minus 2, so I can cancel both of those out. So then on top we're left with 4 and on bottom we're left with x plus 3. So that is our answer. And we also have our excluded values. That is part of our answer. So what we're really doing is we're taking our new piece from today and we're taking what we did yesterday. Okay. Let's summarize real quick. We have some things that we did here today. So our first blank, the first thing that we are going to do, like always, we are going to factor. And reminder, sometimes factoring might include just finding your GCF. Okay. Second thing that we did, you have to find values that make the denominator equal to 0. These are excluded values. So remember, what you're really doing is you're making them not equal 0, and then you are solving them. Okay. And you need to, like we just did in that last problem, you need to cancel common factors. So remember in that last one, we had x minus 2 over x minus 2, and we canceled those because they were in common. Okay. All right, I want you to summarize what just happened in this video and scale yourself on where you think you are. And I will see you guys tomorrow. And have a great day.